President Durkan calls this effort just the latest abuse of power by the Trump administration, and some legal scholars agree. The lawlessness that descended on the Capitol Hill organized protest, or CHOP, may lead to legal action by federal prosecutors. The New York Times says Attorney General William Barr singled out Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan as responsible for the violence that unfolded in a zone where police steered clear.
They're saying that the mayor may have violated criminal statutes, and very serious criminal statutes, simply based on the discretionary decisions that she made, where to deploy the police, when to pull them back.
Barr also wants rioters charged with sedition, or trying to overthrow the government. It's a statute constitutional law professor Andy Siegel calls archaic.
I mean, basically, it is a junior varsity treason charge.
For her part, Durkan accuses the Trump administration of using the Justice Department for political purposes just weeks away from an election, saying it is particularly egregious to try to use the civil rights laws to investigate, intimidate, or deter those that are fighting for civil rights in our country. Siegel doubts Durkan would ever be charged and sees this as a play for swing voters.
I mean, I think it's mostly about the re-election. It's about how they're centering these protests and in the election campaign and trying to make it seem like the U.S. is under attack.
I think it's a great opportunity to really figure out how we rebuild.
Chief Diaz has taken over as Seattle's top cop during a trying and tumultuous time. With riots, demands for police reform, a looming defunding, all happening in a pandemic.
So we've had a lot of challenges. We had Chaz and CHOP and, not having an East Precinct, having an East Precinct. So it's had its ups and downs.
The 2-decade SPD veteran who's worked his way up from patrol to an assistant chief, then to deputy chief, says he's ready to focus on authentic community policing.
And right now, this is our time to really listen and understand what community concerns are. How do we reimagine community safety, public safety, and even policing?
The police union and officers have voiced concerns, saying there aren't enough resources or tools to protect the public, especially with defunding. So far, Chief Diaz transferred 100 officers from specialty units to the 911 patrol team, which he considers the backbone of the department.
We were completely short-staffed. We really had to make sure that patrol was actually staffed properly. And that really gets to, instead of really having a department that's focused on being specialized, it's really trying to make every officer a generalist.
Now, Black Lives Matter of Seattle and King County is asking for an investigation into SPD's actions against protesters this summer. Diaz says the department is working through the consent decree and correcting setbacks.
I'm always willing to have those conversations with a variety of different groups, and I think that's where we're going to get most done.
But the chief says he will not tolerate rioters seeking destruction, targeting police, and trying to burn down police buildings.
And so that's unacceptable. I will not ever tolerate that. We will focus on making sure that we try to quell every aspect of that.
Molly, the Department of Natural Resources says they are doing all they can with every dollar given, but when you see the smoky skies and you learn about the loss of life and property from these wildfires, well, people start to question if it's really enough. 22 million acres of forest stretch across this state, but past management practices have put much of the ecosystem at risk. Now, the Department of Natural Resources and its partners are working toward a new set of goals.
We're on our way to meet them. We are delivering every year with the resources given, and I believe we'll get there.
To prevent wildfires from raging out of control, DNR has targeted 1.25 million acres for forest thinning and controlled burns, measures that weren't prioritized in decades past.
We've been successful at removing fire from the landscape. Well, the landscape needs fire.
So far, about 147,000 acres have been treated, which is 40,000 acres short of the pace laid out under a 20-year plan. More forestry work is expected this fiscal year.
The challenge is that there is never enough money and there are never enough people to take care of all those landscapes that really need to have fuel reduction.
Aside from funding challenges, there are also concerns about climate change and how that influences wildfire risks. DNR says they're trying to approach the problem strategically to do the most with limited resources.
But the real difference is, are we doing the right thing in the right place at the right scale?
New details continue to emerge nearly 24 hours after a deadly series of events began to unfold at Seattle's Cal Anderson Park. 2 people are dead tonight, a woman and the man suspected of killing her, Travis Berge. Berge is a habitual offender we've covered extensively in our Project Seattle reports and our Seattle is Dying special.
Tonight we're learning brand new details about what led up to the deaths last night at Cal Anderson Park. We have team coverage. KOMO's Patrick Quinn spoke with Mayor Durkan about the turmoil at that park. But we begin with KOMO's Jonathan Cho live at Cal Anderson with the latest on this tragedy. Jonathan?
Eric, this pump house behind me is where the police standoff with Berge ended and his body pulled from a tank full of bleach this evening here at Cal Anderson Park. His friends are mourning both lives. How are you going to remember Travis?
I'm grieving for a friend today who was a brilliant person.
William Barr says his friend Travis Berge,
but was a tragic character because of the drug addiction and the mental health crisis that was going on.
Spent lots of time near this rock at Cal Anderson Park. People are now leaving flowers to remember his life and the one he allegedly took.
Travis was clearly not in his right mind.
Berge is suspected of killing a woman. He was staying within a makeshift shelter Wednesday evening at Cal Anderson. Her name is not being released at this time. The motive and how she died remains unclear.
And he just kept yelling at them.
Investigators say around the same time EMTs tried to revive the woman, Berge broke into the pump house and barricaded himself inside, leading to a standoff with police for several hours before the SWAT team moved in. Philip Igas saw it all go down.
Kind of yelling threats like, don't make me do it. Started counting down, 3, 2, 1, and they just started throwing garbage at the police and trying to run away.
Crews pulled Berge's body out of a bleach tank inside the pump house early this morning. It's unclear how he ended up inside and died.
Your word. The city failed Travis.
Parham says he is not excusing Berge, but also says this could have been prevented.
But they also failed a woman who is dead today because that person was allowed to be on the streets.